A very good evening to you. And welcome along once again to Sweet and Swing here on Manx Radio. It's Howard Kane with you until the top of the hour. The next hour, that is. And what have we got? More reasons to love Paris. Another jazz in the classics. I think we're heading towards the end. Bing on the sentimental side. Frank and Friends. And something a bit different. Donald Swann. Port Erin 50 years ago. But to get us going, well, something as we head towards Manx Grand Prix week, or 10 days or whatever it is, we keep thinking, looking skywards and thinking it only takes a small cloud.
A small cloud to cover the sun. When all's said and done, you don't have to run away from a small cloud. It only takes a rainbow to banish the rain. For after the rain, the sun shines again because of that rainbow. You needn't bury your head in the sand like an ostrich when old man troubles round. You got to take a firm hold of yourself and say over, yes, over and over. I found it only takes a small cloud to cover the sun. When all's said and done, you don't have to run away from a small cloud.
Ah, yes, indeed, it is true, unfortunately. It only takes a small cloud. Been no shortage of them this summer, it has to be said. It's, not been the best of weather of late. It already feels like autumn in my house. I'm told by my better half the other evening I was in the garden trying to cut the grass before what seemed to be thunderstorms the next day. So I think it must have been Thursday evening, was it? And it wasn't cold. I'll give it that at Cronkervoddy. It wasn't cold. And the grass was dry. But it was blowing strongly. If you put an empty bucket or an empty anything down, it just took off and disappeared. She said she'd been down in Port Erin and said it was glorious down there. So perhaps it was just cronky. I don't know. Either way, it certainly hasn't been brilliant. And today, well, a friend here was getting married today, outside. I hope she's not somewhere blowing over the Irish Sea at the moment. Trust she's all right. Wasn't wearing too voluminous a dress. But yes, not what you'd call summery necessarily. And of course, is it because we're heading towards Grand Prix week? Well, cynics would say so, wouldn't they? As soon as the bikes start racing and you need good visibility over the mountain and good dry roads, the weather always seems to close in, don't they? And we are always looking towards the skies and hoping that the bad weather will stay away. It only takes a small cloud to ruin a good outdoor festival, be it the Grand Prix or indeed the ill-fated Port Erin Beach Festival. They've cancelled it once, it was so bad, and then had to cancel it, or postponed it once, I should say, get it right, postponed it once, and then postponed again, because you think you would be able to pick a day in August or thereabouts, and it would be okay, even if the sun wasn't cracking the flags, but no. Anyway, there we go. Keep looking towards the skies, keep our fingers crossed that the Port Erin Beach Festival does take part on Sunday. Can't leave it much later, it'll be into the autumn. And that the weather is good enough for the bikes to do their stuff during Grand Prix, because so many people like to see it. Even if you don't, you've got to allow that other people do, of course. Jack White, there, I'll get it going. In any case, I don't want to get you too angry about the bikes. Jack White and his band, and on vocals, a man you don't often hear, probably because he perhaps wasn't one of the better-known names, Tony Morris. Singing with vocals there in a bit of a close harmony in a trio. And, yeah, not a huge amount really to say about him. He was indeed a vocalist, as you heard, and not a bad one. I don't think he was an outstanding one necessarily. Also a saxophonist, which was handy, and played the clarinet. And most active with Jack White there just before and during the war. And I think after that, I don't know where he went. And I can't tell you a great deal more, because even the Bible, when I was looking up on that in England's second book of British dance bands, singers and smaller bands, that's all it has to say about Tony Morris either. So frankly, if they don't know a great deal more, I'm afraid I don't. But if you do, he might be your great uncle. Let me know. Howard Kane at manxradio.com, Caine. Or if you've got any great stories, I'm more than happy to give them a spin here on Sweet and Swing, or of course any more music you'd like to hear. Any thoughts really, drop us a line anytime. Always delighted to hear from you. There's someone I haven't got back to you yet, I think was asking me about the best way to listen. I promise I haven't forgotten. It's just terrible memory and being busy. I will get back to you on that one. I promise. I'm not that old yet. So drop me a line anytime. Howard Kane at manxradio.com. Would be lovely to hear from you. Where are we going next? Here's another one we haven't featured on the programme for a long time. Quite a spunky little number, this one. Revels in the name of It's a Murder. I hope not.
Now all you gals come gather round, stop raving about your men. And let me tell you how sweet mine is, though he commits a sin. 'Cause when my baby makes love to me, it's murder. Now when he turtle doves me, that's murder. Now when he feels temperamental, I just let him have his way. I can only see him twice a week, he's a member of the PWA. Now when my baby caresses me, it's murder. But if he ever dispossesses me, I will commit murder. Now if I tell him that he's not mine, he turns into Frankenstein, makes shivers run up and down my spine. That's murder. if he ever dispossess me, I will commit murder. Now he drinks liquor and everything. He's a guy that's got that swing. But when he shakes that thing, that's murder.
Ah, don't you just love a bit of scat singing? Wonderful. Lil Armstrong and her swing orchestra. It's murder. It seems to be a relatively happy murder. I'm pleased to hear if that's not a contradiction in terms. But don't know you get away with those words these days or not. Don't know whether you could. But we're not talking about these days. We're talking about the 1930s. Lil Armstrong over stateside with some of the great swing bands that were there. Perhaps not heard that often on this side of the pond. Now, I suggested or alluded to at the beginning of the programme something a little different. And, I'll tell you about it now to whet your appetite. So we've been enjoying a bit of Flanders and Swan, haven't we? The wonderful duo At the Drop of a Hat, drop of another hat, and their bestious songs about animals, the canoe and mud, glorious mud, and such like. And I was rummaging in the Manx Radio archives for something else altogether, as is often the case, isn't it? You look for one thing and you find something else. And what I found in this particular case was a tape that the late, great David Collister had done, interviewing Donald Swann, soulless when he'd been over here, doing a solo concert at the wonderful Erin Arts Centre in 1972. So yes, I thought, well, that's got to be worth a play. And he starts off by playing Alan Vannon, and then has a chat with David about his concert on the Isle of Man and his long tenure with Michael Flanders and such like. And I thought it'd be lovely to hear it. Why not? We're not going to hear it anywhere else, so it seemed like an ideal spot. So I hope you'll indulge me and enjoy that little chat between Donald Swann and David Collister here on the Isle of Man in the Erin Arts Centre, and a little bit of music before that to boot, and then we'll hear some of Flanders and Swann back in the day. Before that, plenty more. How about a bit of Coleman Hawkins? Don't take your love away from me. Ah, lovely stuff. The Hawk himself, Coleman Hawkins, from the album wonderfully entitled The Beanbags, Milt Baggs Jackson and Coleman Bean Hawkins, as were their nicknames. Coleman, of course, on tenor sax there. Tommy Flanagan at the piano, a Kenny Burrell guitar, Eddie Jones bass, Connie Kay, he of modern jazz quartet fame, at the drums. And did we hear the vibroharp on that? Milt Jackson? I'm not sure we did, actually, to be honest. But lovely stuff. Nice, laid-back, mellow ballad there. Don't Take Your Love From Me. Hopefully you hadn't all nodded off. Maybe we need something a bit more up-tempo in a moment. We're going to Bing, though, next, from our Bing, the sentimental side of Bing, the world of Bing Crosby on the sentimental side, a whole collection of songs from various parts of his career. Some well-known, some not so well-known. I don't know whether this one is that well-known. I wouldn't have thought it was, to be honest with you, but, well, I'll play it and you can make your own mind up. That Sly Old Gentleman from Featherbed Lane.
Now, listen here, young fella. You know it's getting pretty late. I think it's time that you turned off those tears. Perhaps you think you're different. I don't know. Perhaps you think you rate. Or do you think you're grown up for your years? Now, you better go to sleep, my fine young man. But if I can't convince you, someone can. That sly old gentleman from Featherbed Lane. He's watching you, peeking through your window pane. He's gathered sand from the skies that glitters and gleams. He'll sprinkle your eyes with dreams. He'll make your little heart so happy and gay. You'll ride a rocking horse along the Milky Way. Why stay awake? Better take that slumber train with the sly old gentleman from Featherbed Lane. You'll ride a rocking horse along the Milky Way. Why stay awake? Better take that slumber train with the sly old gentleman from Featherbed Lane.
Great track, great ending as well. That crash on the China cymbal. Sounds like a China in any case. Ain't Misbehaving, I'm sure you recognise The Pianist. I bet some of you are saying, ooh, it's Fats Waller, wasn't it? No, it wasn't. So if you said Arthur Young, then you can clap yourself on the back, because it was he indeed. Arthur Young, not perhaps a household name, certainly not like Fats Waller in any case, but more than a hint of he is playing a Fats Waller tune that ain't misbehaving in that sort of style, I guess, stride style. But, and not a million miles removed in the sort of overall styling from Fats perhaps, but he was his own man, very much something of a veteran by the time he was with Hatchett's, at Hatchett's restaurant, leading the band during World War II, but started out with Jack Hilton a good sort of 15 years earlier or so in 1925, and then also accompanied Brian Lawrence, the singer, and went on to be a regular with George Scott Wood's Six Swingers, and great pianist there. Hope you're nice, lovely, nice bouncing, loping style. Top marks, if you got that. Top marks. I wouldn't have done. I'd probably guessed the same as you and said it was a Fats Waller, even though he wasn't actually doing any vocalising on that one. Before that, The Sentimental Side of Bing. I like that one. It has a Christmassy feel, but maybe, I don't know, I just have to hear Bing and I'm in a Christmassy mood in so many ways. And that one has a sort of cosy little, little man, you've had a busy day feel about it, hasn't it? Going up to bed. That sly old gentleman from Featherbed Lane. I like The Sentimental Side of Bing. I mean, you could argue most of his stuff was sentimental, I suppose, but yeah, not always. I mean, some of the stuff he did with Bob Hope and such like, and some of the more musical or from the musical numbers were a bit more bouncy and perhaps a bit more sort of cheesy. These sentimental numbers, I don't know. Maybe it's just of a certain age and Bing just works for you, I guess. And I assume I'm of that age because I can't imagine not liking much Bing Crosby. Even the stuff he did with David Bowie I thought was pretty good. There we go. Remember that little drummer boy was it on Bing's show? I think it was a Christmas show where he was in the armchair and answering the door, and yeah, in came David Bowie, or Bowie, I can never remember how to pronounce it, and they did that duet together. Wonderful stuff. Okay, right, well, I'll see if I can get the tape machine going then. So, as I said, our Flanders and Swan we've been enjoying over the last few weeks, dipping into the box set of At the Drop of a Hat, the review Flanders and Swan did, At the Drop of Another Hat, their following review, and another CD or collection of their animal songs, a bestiary of Flanders and Swan. They worked together for years and years and toured the globe at least once, if not twice, an amazing number of concerts. And in 1972, off the back of all that work, Donald Swan himself, on his own, came over here. I can't recall off the top of my head when Michael Flanders died, but they did go their separate ways before he did. It wasn't his death which broke them up. It was after a long time, as you'll hear Donald say, they decided perhaps they wanted to do other things. And so they sort of started branching out, and Donald Swan started going out on his own. Super talented guy. It must have been very strange after all that time going out as a duo to go out on your own. You must have felt very sort of naked and exposed, but particularly with such a wordsmith and character as Michael Flanders. But Donald Swan did, and very successfully so. And in 1972, he came over here to give a concert at the wonderful Erin Arts Centre down there in Port Erin. So let's hear him talking to Manx Radio's David Collister about the visit, and he started off playing Alan Vannon. Forgive the quality, it's a 50-year-old tape, so it's not quite as good as you might always get, but I think it's more than good enough to enjoy.
Ten days ago, Donald Swan appeared in 2 concerts for the Erin Arts Centre in Port Erin, where on the 29th and 30th of June he delighted audiences there with his songs and humour. I spoke with Donald Swan at the Erin Arts Centre and I asked him first when his association with Michael Flanders began.
Oh, well, that's right back at school, I suppose. We did our first review, which takes us right back to 1940. But we worked very hard after the war for about 8 years, writing songs for other people. And then it was from 1957 for about 11 years onwards that we were mostly out front doing the shows to the general public, you know, and at the drop of a hat.
It's a long partnership indeed, actually, and very, very successful. You took the show to America, didn't you?
Yes, it was in America for several times, and we were touring around the country, and we were on Broadway, and Michael, of course, married an American girl, so it all became very much Anglo-American at that time.
Did you find American audiences different from English audiences?
Well, I would say that they differed a little in that sometimes we had to change a word or two, you know, windshield wiper for windscreen wiper and all that, but when it comes to the fact that stuff was literate and general in humour, I mean, the English and the Americans are not that different when it comes to humour, and of course the type of people we got were the sort of people who come to England in any case.
Yes, yes. It's unusual, I think, to find you now performing as a solo artist. Is this a new venture for you, or have you been performing solo for some time?
Well, it's a fairly new venture. I have, when Michael and I had done 1,700 performances at the drop of a hat and been right round the world, we both felt a certain feeling that life was moving on, you know, and that we should try other things. I had a great desire to write choral music, and I did quite a lot of church music at that time. I wanted to explore the serious ideas and set other poets, you see. And then I do precisely this, but just occasionally it seems to me that instead of employing artists and working with them all, as I do play the piano and sing, I can put this together in an evening of my own, and this is what I've been doing here.
And you need the contact with a live audience, presumably?
I seem to need that, yes. The live audience who can laugh when there's a joke or react when there's something important that I'm trying to speak, because I speak quite a lot now, too, with the shows. In a way, yes, what I was doing in the Isle of Man here was a little experimental for me, too. I'm not too used to doing a complete evening on my own, but I think it worked very nicely.
Well, in the Isle of Man, you've done 2 shows for the Erin Arts Centre here in Port Erin, and I think you found them to be quite successful. This idea of an arts centre to promote good classical or light music and entertainment in live performance, is this a thing which is being done throughout Britain?
I think it's growing more than ever, yes. It's a very pleasant atmosphere to go down sometimes to some small place and find that people have really put time and effort into it. I mean, here was a lovely piano and a nice building. I'm interested that they've turned the church into the art centre, because the churches have a lot of unused buildings, and it's the right way round, I think.
Yes.
They're used for a new purpose. And I think I doubt whether I've ever found a more truly warm, friendly, artistic, and thoroughly cultural atmosphere. I think we should be very proud of this place.
Stop. Knit 2 together. On the road that runs to the harbour wall, where the lumbering landsmen sleep, I hear a strange, mysterious call. 'Tis the call of the ocean deep. I must go down to the sea to see a rollicking boat, where the breakers roar and the salt spray flies, and a sailoring man can stretch his eyes. Why, here's a boat. Come, let us set it afloat. Hey-ho for the open sea, with a scudding sail and the sharp wind's kiss. And I say to myself, say I, why this is the life for me. With a tenor that kicks like a living thing, while the main brace sings on high. Sing on, old main brace. I think whatever the sea may bring, ready am I. Oh, to be riding high in the teeth of a thundering gale, with the decks awash and the bowsprits crack, as I bring her about on the starboard tack. Why, here's a gale. thanks, I won't have any soup. I seem to be suddenly taken queer. If somebody else would like to steer, I'm feeling
Carry me back to the land, pebble, mud, or sand. Oh, to be back on the beach once more, on the still, dry land.
from the road that runs by the harbour wall. I gaze at the bounding main, and I hear that strange, mysterious call. 'Tis the call of the sea. Again, oh, not again, no.
I must go down to the sea to see the rollicking boat, where the breakers roar and the salt spray flies, and the sailoring man can stretch his eyes. Thank God,
No boat.
Terrific stuff, as always. Flanders and Swan from their review at the drop of another hat. And before that, I hope you enjoyed a little chat with one of the men themselves, namely Donald Swan, talking there to David Collister of Manx Radio fame in his pomp back in the early 1970s. 1972, to be exact. He was talking to Donald Swan as Donald was over here doing two concerts at the early, it would be then relatively early days of the Erin Arts Centre, when it was just looking like an old chapel, which of course it is, although you might not recognise it so much now. So much great work has been done, and the art gallery on the side, and the refreshment area at the back, etc., etc. Been such a wonderful building and development, all by charity over the years. And as you heard David say, of course, back then it was quite a new idea, the Art Centre. We're fortunate to have two or three now, aren't we? We've obviously got the wonderful EAC. We've also got the Peel Centenary Centre. And of course, there's the new, or the newest, I suppose, up in Ramsey with the Ramsey Hub there. Terrific. We need one in every corner of the island, don't we? Perfect things. And yes, and then the C, one of their lesser known numbers, I would guess, as I say from their review at the drop of a hat, just called Sea Fever. Flanders, Michael Flanders that is, and Donald Swan. Let's jazz the classics. I think we've been pretty much through this lot. Hopefully we're not repeating ourselves. I think it'll make this one the last in any case, and fingers crossed we got it the right way around. Either way, it's a goodie. So it's an interpretation by Woody Herman and his orchestra of the Sabre Dance. Ah, the sabre dance. Of course, Khachaturian, you might, well, you probably do know. I'm sure you do. Khachaturian, arranged by Burns. Number 3 hit for Woody Herman and his orchestra. Woody, of course, on clarinet and alto sax, and then the orchestra featured all sorts of really well-known names. Marky Markovitz, Shorty Rogers on trumpet. You also had the likes of Zoot Sims on tenor, and the wonderfully quirky and apparently spiky Serge Chaloff on baritone. If you ever get a chance to hear his album Blue Surge, do yourself a favour and have a listen to that one. Great stuff on the more of a bebop style when he was out on his own, but a couple of classics from Serge Chaloff there. Wonderful stuff. And recorded, has got a recording date, 1947, with Don Lamond on drums. Good stuff. Frank and Friends, not Frankenstein, Frank and Friends, dipping in and out of this one. We have been for, I don't know, a few weeks now, but never go wrong with Frank Sinatra, can you? Like Bing Crosby, just sort of immortal somehow or other, lives on forever, and you imagine long after we've popped off this mortal coil, there'll still be people listening to Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby and Perry Como, and some of those wonderful voices from the 40s and 50s and 60s, and before, of course, as well. Here he is from a collection just called Frank and Friends, or Frank Sinatra and Friends if you want to. No Can Do. No, I can do, honestly, it's just the name of the track, promise.
No can do, no can do. My mama and my papa say I no can do. No can do, no can do. I want for me to go with you, but no can do.
You like me, I like you. I like for you to Romeo, you're Julie, you. No can do, no, 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 no can do. My mommy and my poppy say I no can do. The moon, she say to me, come on, come out tonight. I want for you to hold my hand and hold me tight.
Love, it can't be wrong, and so it must be right. But oh, no can do, no can do. I like to do it what you call it, peach-de-woo.
Can do, no can do. My mommy and my poppy say I know can do.
No can do, no can do. I'd like to put some weight on, just a pound or two. No can do, no can do.
If you put some weight on Frankie, you'd be through. Is it true?
Is what true?
That you're the idol of the Bobby Soxer crew.
Could be true. But don't tell Hames or Como, 'cause they're apt to sue.
Now I've got a question you might think unfair.
Ask me anything, my dear, I don't care.
Well, how much do you pay those guys who muss your hair?
Well, I pay them about what?
Oh, you like me, and I like you. So how's about it, Frankie, when the show is through?
No can do, no can do. Nancy's very jealous
So I know.
Nancy's
Very jealous, all we know can do.
You got the impression that Bobby Soxers were in the audience, don't you? With that huge whoop. When no doubt he was something of a sort of sex idol, I suppose so. He was pretty handsome in his younger years, wasn't he? Frank Sinatra from Frank and Friends. And as you might have gathered from the hollering towards the end there, no can do, he was indeed with Lena Romay, the vocalist and actress as well. I think she was, if memory serves correct. I enjoy that one. It's very atmospheric and clearly whooping it up, the audience, on that one. I'm just looking to see whether there's a recording detail on that, and I don't think there is. Some there is, some there ain't, and there's nothing on that as far as I can see. No recording details given. We'll finish off, I think, probably going to be our last, isn't it? It's a slightly longer one, this, from our little collection of 50 Reasons to Love Paris, all sorts of wonderful French music from the swing era and sort of bop, and before that as well. Yeah, on 3 CDs worth, there you go, get your money's worth on this one. And we'll go to the far end, I suppose, of the collection. How about a bit of the Michel Le Grand Trio. April in Paris. Lovely, nice way to finish off, I think, isn't it? A really quiet, subtle reading of April in Paris by Michel Legrand and his trio, although frankly I think there might have been a very subtle accompaniment there. We'll give them a name. In any case, it was a Guy Pedersen on bass and Gus Valles on the drums, but it's predominantly there, all about Michel Legrand's piano, and very lovely it was too. They recorded in Paris in 1959, a classic jazz year, it has to be said, albeit just before my time. Shame. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this evening. A little bit different with that. Great to hear David Collister, and wonderful to hear him talking to the wonderful Donald Swann. You can't have too much of the Air and Arts Centre. Right, see you next week. Look after yourselves. Cheerio.